Right, so our next speaker is Professor Claes Hultling. Where do I start introducing him? Where do I start? How can I ever do justice to a man in this extraordinary story? Well, let me try. Claes is a sailor. He's a doctor, an innovator. He's a creative, outside-the-box thinker with a relentless mission advocating the rights of disabled individuals to live a full life. With over 1,500 patients around the world with spinal cord injuries, he is one of the world's most influential professors in this field of expertise. So Claes and his son came over from, Claes and his son Emil came over from Helsinki just to share a few snippets of their extraordinary experiences in life and in sailing. And with that, it is my honor and my pleasure to hand the stage to Professor Claes Hultling. All right. Yeah. Oh, hang on. That's the machine.
Thank you. Dear sailors, dear organizing committee, thank you very much for inviting me to this extraordinary event happening in Helsinki. I'm honored and pleased to be here. What I will do is I will share 25 minutes with you to expose you for some of my experience I've had throughout my life. That took a change in 1984 when I broke my neck. And I will start going through some of my professional tasks and commitments, and I will come into more sailing business a little bit later on. Disabilities, impairment, lame has been in every country, in every continent for thousands of years. And one thing that all people living with some kind of disability shares is that you're partially part of this society. In Sweden we have 10 million people and 20% live with some kind of disability. I broke my neck in a diving accident the last day of May in 1984. I was 31 years of age and I was working in intensive care as an anesthesiologist at the Karolinska Hospital in Stockholm, which has 7,000 people employed. Today, the good news is that more people survive spinal cord injury due to a more sufficient medical service, to better professionals, better acute care, and acute care has high status and attracts a lot of skilled persons that are committed to save lives by having a better structure of the acute care. But the bad news is definitely to what? If we spend thousands and millions of dollars to rescue people, we have to have an idea what's going to happen afterwards. Because there is a tendency to spend much more money during the acute phase than later on down the line. And I hate to see that more people end up in nursing homes and that the society per se don't take that responsibility. This is a unique picture. It's taken 2 weeks, not 3 days, but 2 weeks after my spinal cord injury. It's me and Barbro, Emil's mother. We have lived in sin for 5 years. And we decided to get married the 14th of June in 1984. And then it happened that I had my spinal cord injury 2 weeks before. The question was whether we should proceed. The dean and the CEO of the hospital tried to persuade my parents to stop the wedding because they thought that I was going to be a vegetable the rest of my life. It puts into perspective the idea of the chief executive officer of a big hospital that believes that he can steer not only the hospital but other people's lives. I was in a striker bed for 2 weeks, or for 1 week, where you are like a hamburger and rotated every 4th hour in order to avoid pressure sores. I had my bachelor party in a striker bed. Very few people have had their bachelor party in a striker bed. Anyway, I was operated on with a bone fuse between my 5th and my 7th vertebra, and then I have a thoracocervical collar because you cannot put a cast on your neck, and we got married. And this is Barbro, who passed away in August last year after 45 years of marriage, and this is on off deck on the old Varg that we owned from 1977 to 1984. Anyway, I had to spend the summer as an inpatient in the hospital. And I was a pretty tricky patient because, of course, I was a patient in the same hospital I was a doctor. And I could push borders, that was my idea. And the interesting thing was that after 3 weeks, midsummer, and as you know, in Finland and Sweden, midsummer is a big festivitas, and I didn't want to spend midsummer in the hospital. So I told the ward that I was leaving for midsummer, and they said, I'm not sure that you get permission to leave. And I said, since I'm not here due to psychiatric reasons, you cannot keep me in the hospital against my will. So, with the help of my friends in the police corps and rescue helicopters, they flew me out to Landsort on Midsummer Eve on 1984. And that was the first time when I realized that this was not a dream, because with the smell of the sea and the wind in my face, and my father is there in the blue t-shirt, I realized that this was real, and I started to cry, and I really felt that all this frustration came up within me, and I was so frustrated and I felt so sad. I was exercising my grief, which is something which is so important, and people often forget to exercise their grief. We're bad in that, both in Finland and in Sweden. We think that we have to just use our forehead and not exercise our grief. We have to practice more philosophy in order to be more humble vis-a-vis the fact that something like this happened. Landsort is situated at the far south part of the Stockholm archipelago. So south of Landsort is Poland. And it's also the oldest lighthouse in Sweden. Direction is everything. Speed is trivial in this case. You have to have a goal idea. You have to have a roadmap when you break your neck and if you want to succeed in embarking onto life. I tried to get back into work after that summer. And all of a sudden it became important with all the attributes. The white gown, the pager, the scrub clothes, because I wanted to be part of something. Everyone wants to be part of something. That's the key element in the entire rehabilitation process, not to be left outside. And for me, it was important to stress the fact that I was still somebody within the doctor's team at the Karolinska. And I was then fulfilled by a mission that I should do something. And I localized the largest spinal cord injury center in the world on the southern hemisphere, Royal Perth Rehabilitation Hospital. And the catchment area for the hospital in Perth is the size of Europe. So, I mean, it's from Darwin in north and all the way. And they had 350 new cases a year. And they had a great neuropathology where every Thursday morning we went through all the cases that died. We could check the spinal column, the spinal cord. This is me in 1986 with my colleague Richard Levy. And one thing that might interest you is that this stay in Perth and Fremantle happened to coincide with America's Cup down in Fremantle. So we brought two, at that time called Mini 12s, later on being converted to 2.4. It's a meter boat. And I've sailed the meter boats since a couple of weeks after my spinal cord injury. And this is in Royal Perth Yacht Club on the Swan River. It's me racing the Commodore of the Royal Perth Yacht Club. I came back and I started Spinalis, which is a unit for spinal cord injury patients, an outpatient unit, and also we have inpatients. And today it looks like this. We have 56 beds. We have the largest outpatient unit for spinal cord injury patients in Northern Europe. We serve 1,536 patients on a sort of a daily, lifelong care. And it's a great place. It could be even better, but this is the way it's right now. This is one of the books I've written. This is the Spinalis Handbook, and it's translated into the Ukraine language. I met with Elena Zelenskaya to the left here. I met with her when she was visiting Sweden, and I gave her the English version, and she wanted a translation into the Ukraine language. So we did that and printed 2,000, and this is in Kiev in October when she invited me to come to Kiev for a book release. And that is another interesting story. I then had the opportunity to ask our Minister of Health to join us, so we were there for 3 days. And 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, I became professor of medicine at the Karolinska Institutet, and I've been having a large number of PhD students that I have been tutoring for all these years. In 1959, my father, who didn't have any experience with sailing, bought this little Blekinge Eka, clink, oak on oak, and this is the way we started our journey. I had an Optimist in mahogany plywood, number 405. There have been some Optimists built after that. And I sailed during the 70s with Nam Nam, Ballad 226, together with Staffan Collins, who was a sailmaker in Stockholm. And those were the days when we had 50 ballads on the Gotland Round race. Quite interesting. But already in 1977, this boat came onto my mind. It's built in Norway in 1927. It came to Finland during the 30s and was owned by Nylund in this country. It was sold back, and Lasse Björk then brought it back during the early 70s. And I was tempted to change from sailing the fiberglass Ballad to get into a real boat. And this painting is done by Rickard Ahlqvist, who's an architect and an artist, and who lived in Helsinki and sailed with us several times. And this is painting for the World Cup in Visby in Sweden, '82. And this is me at the helm of Old Varg sailing from actually Hangö to Gotland. And this is the Old Varg at Per Wermelins, Parsans Djurubåtvarv. We had to take it up in the middle of the summer because it was leaking like hell. It was almost sinking. If you're sailing upwind, you had 2 electric pumps going simultaneously all the time, not to sink. And today, Old Varg is sailing in the Netherlands, and she's been refurbished almost 100%, and she's doing a great job. And the crew of that consortium that owns that boat in the Netherlands came and visited us this summer and sailed with us for a weekend, which was great fun. This is Old Varg during the World Cup in Visby in 1982. And this is before that. It's interesting to look at the merchandise we had at those times. The T-shirts was probably $2, and the printing was probably 50 cents. And this is Barbara to the right, and this is the summer of 1985, and I'm in a wheelchair at that time. Anyway, this was an interesting start with the 2.4. I was brought down into a Norlin Mark III by Peter Norlin 6 weeks after my injury. And the question was it possible to sail this boat or not? And because it's the lines to the rudder goes to 2 pedals normally, but you can easily adapt something to steer manually. And then it's just a matter of kitting the boat for your disability or for your needs. And the interesting thing is, on the race course, you can never tell whether there is an amputee, a hemiplegic, tetraplegic, paraplegic, or whatever, because you're there. It's a one-man sailing boat, single-handed. And during the best races, we had over 120 boats on the starting line. And there is a lot of people who has actually been coming back into sail racing because of this wonderful meter boat. And this is when I went to Cadiz in Spain in 1999 to try to qualify for the first Paralympic sailing games with medals in Sydney the year 2000. And actually, coming in on that reach, I had to place no worse than 8 in the last race in order to make it. I had to beat the Spaniard. There were 85 boats on the line. So the only thing I could do that last race was just to sail on top of him the entire course. And my coach was Stellan Westerdahl, who was with Pelle Pettersson in Newport 76 and 80. And for those of you who have met Stellan, it's a ball game all time, and it's so much fun to be together with him. Anyway, I made it to Sydney, and there was 18 boats on the line in Sydney. That's me on a bad picture because we needed more resolution. But somebody took this picture, and it's for sale for $400. But anyway, apart from racing, I started another foundation. Spinalis is a foundation. It's not an LTD. It's not a company. And I like the idea of running medical services in the concept of a foundation. You're still operating on a private market, but you don't have any venture capitalists in Luxembourg who steer you. But that's another story. Skota Hem is a great invention that I started already in 1986. And it's situated in Saltsjöbaden. It's about 10 meters away from Kungliga Svenska Segelsällskapet, the Royal Swedish Yacht Squadron. And it's good because the Royal Swedish Yacht Squadron get a chance to see that everyone is not driving there in big BMWs or Bentleys or whatever, that people are coming also with special designed coaches for people with disabilities. And we're doing a great job, and we're sailing with 500 people throughout the year, from May to September every year, and it's been very well thought of. Stiftelsen Skota Hem, who has actually been trying to push sailing for everyone. And it's fun when you come down to the jetty and you see this. You realize that you made some difference in life when people can come off and actually experience sailing. Because we have to point beyond ourselves. I have to point beyond myself in order to try to overcome all these obstacles that's there in order to make sure that people can actually get out on the water and experience the freedom that we all sense when we are out on the water. This is the Folkboat that we bought already in 1984. Emil was 2 years of age. And for me and Barbara, this was really a way to escape. We could just sail for a couple of hours and throw an anchor and boil some potatoes and open some herring and take a beer, maybe a schnapps, and then continue sail for a couple of hours more. It's a great boat. It's built in Lysekil. It's probably 50 years of age. But I have been so happy with this boat over years. And I've sailed everywhere. And this is Barbara, Emil, and myself in the cockpit of that boat. We have towed the boat twice to the Adriatic Sea and sailed from Rijeka to Split and down to Dubrovnik. I cannot rent a boat. And why can I not rent a boat? What is the diminishing factor when you are crippled, lame, disabled, paralyzed, impaired, whatever? It's because you cannot find a toilet that works. You cannot get on the loo. So I have the best toilet in the world right inside the entrance to the cabin. And I have a hot water shower. And you see the blue canvas there is to protect the rest of the cabin when I'm showering. But the interesting thing is that this is thinking out of the box. How the hell do you get around? Also when you're sailing in the archipelago, if there is not a toilet. Everyone is so obsessed about the fact that they cannot get on the toilet. And of course, if you don't, it's like the saying is, a good shit is like half a fuck. And and I proved here, by doing this, you can really, you can persuade people that it's worthwhile trying. And this is on Paradiso, which is a small island down along the coast. And we have been down there in May twice, and we're looking to go down again early season. And the boat is probably the smallest boat in all the Adriatic, but we were 3 people on board. And it's really so nice. This is when we were sailing with our disabled friends during the month of June for 3 weeks, when we bring them out for 2-3 days and trying to have a go. And it's amazing. It's amazing to sail an 8-meter, but it's also amazing to sail Folkboat. And it's even more amazing to sail this. This is Lord Nelson, which is a British trust. And we have sailed this boat, Barbara and myself, a couple of times. And she got the free ride because she became the medical officer on board, but I had to pay. And we have some pictures when she's entering the rig. And Emil almost didn't believe that it was true, that it was Photoshop, because she was standing up there and getting the sails together. But it's interesting when you can actually get out on the bowsprit on this boat. I sailed in the Caribbean. We once went to Jersey and sailed up the Solent up to Cowes, and then around Bishop Rock and up to Irish Sea, and we were on board for two weeks. So it's a matter of experience various ways of sailing, and this is behind the helm of Swedish Match together with Roger Nilsson. Roger Nilsson is a board member of one of my foundations, and he has circumnavigated the globe 8 times in Whitbreads and Volvo Ocean Race, and also lately with the French gang with the Orange Bowl. Was it the catamaran that they did like 5-10 years ago? And I hate multi-hulls. But I've still sailed on Impossible Dreams from Miami to New York. It took a week. And I thought I had to try to sail a multi-hull. And of course, it's comfortable, and you can do a lot of other things when you're on board. But for me, it doesn't have the same feeling, the same ambience as sailing a single hull. But we sailed it with Emil and Barbara for a couple of times from Miami down to Key West. And it's lazy sailing. You're out there in the weather, in the sun and the water. But really, the feeling of sailing is not there as it is here. This is the new Varg. And the new Varg is a story by itself. It's really something which is extraordinary. When Craig Karlström found this wreck that was on the bottom of Sydney Harbour and managed to get it over to Cygnet, which is 1 hour south of Hobart on Tasmania. And the Wilson brothers did an excellent job. It took them 6.5 years. and it's a superb piece of 8 meter. John visited in November, and he crawled around in the boat for about an hour and a half, and at least, yeah. And it turned out to be a super yacht. And Andrew Denman did the mast with wood from Alaska, from John's factory up there. And the boat was then launched in 2014. And then, through a lot of channels, Bengt Vanselius, the photographer, went down there, sailed the boat in Tasmania, and after 2 years of negotiation, she was on the road on its way to Sweden. And here is Emil putting in the Swedish flag instead of the Australian flag. And we are so happy that she is now a part of our fleet. And of course, one person was David Vieira, who did all the drawings. And it makes it so. And he made all the gears, all the blocks, and all these things. And this Johan Ankerberg, constructed in 1924, has been giving us so much joy over this. How do I get into the boat? With the spinnaker pole and horns for that. It's me in the yellow. Here, Varg and Våga, the Folkboat, are on the same jetty. And this is sailing from Gotland to Sweden last year. This is where you want to achieve. We have this idea of bringing out people with disabilities out in the archipelago. So we gather 4 sailboats and my motorboat, who has a toilet in it, so everyone can reach the toilet if the boat doesn't have it. And we bring out 30 people in wheelchairs now every June for a 3-night, 4-day session. And this is the most beautiful boat I've ever seen. And thank you very much.
That's very inspiring. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.